I never expected my life to split in half on an ordinary Thursday afternoon. I was just Emma Cruz, a medic at the Silver Creek VA hospital, the woman who blended into hallways, who worked double shifts, who carried the quiet weight of a mother who spent her whole life running from a nameless, powerful family. But everything changed the year I was assigned to Major General Arthur Hale. He was the kind of man people stood straighter around. Sharp, demanding, impossible to please. Yet, for some reason, he allowed only me to touch his bandages, adjust his oxygen, or sit with him when the nights grew long and heavy. I used to think he trusted me because I was a veteran. Now I realize he had been studying me, measuring me, searching for something I didn't know I carried. The morning he died, he squeezed my wrist and whispered, "Don't run, Emma, not like she did." I thought he was confusing me with someone else. I didn't understand until the invitation arrived, a formal envelope, silver embossed lettering, Hale and Brooks Law Firm, will reading. My hands shook just holding it. I told myself I would stand at the back of the room, pay my respects, and disappear. But when I walked into that glass-walled conference room in downtown Silver Creek, every conversation stopped. The Hale family sat around a polished mahogany table like royalty holding court, pearls, tailored suits, and judgmental eyes that slid across me like I was a stain on the carpet. Brandon Hale, the golden grandson and CEO of Hale Group, looked me up and down with a slow smirk. "What's she doing here?" he muttered, not quietly at all. I was his medic," I managed. He laughed. "Right. And I'm the Pope." Before I could turn around and leave, Attorney Daniel Brooks cleared his throat, raised a sealed folder, and the room fell into absolute silence. "As executor of Major General Arthur Hale's estate," he said, "I will begin reading his final will and testament. Bequests passed quickly. Charitable donations, small amounts for extended relatives, a few sentimental items. Nothing surprising, nothing dramatic." Until Daniel paused. His eyes drifted straight to me. "Regarding the Hale Honor Fund and the entirety of the Hale estate," he said slowly, "General Hale names his sole heir, Emma Cruz." The world tilted, chairs scraped, someone gasped. Brandon shot to his feet. "Absolutely not! She manipulated him. She took advantage of a dying old man." Daniel lifted a hand. "Mr. Hale, your grandfather explicitly identifies Ms. Cruz as his granddaughter, the child of his estranged daughter, Lena Hale." My breath stopped. "Granddaughter? Me?" Brandon's face twisted. "She's a nobody, a medic. Look at her. This is a scam." I wanted to walk out. I wanted to disappear the way my mother always taught me to. But then Daniel slid a thin stack of documents across the table. Financial reports from the Hale Honor Fund. Lavish trips, golf retreats, luxury wine shipments, all billed as veteran outreach. Every line item had Brandon's name on it. In that moment, something inside me shifted. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for every veteran who trusted that fund. Brandon leaned close enough for only me to hear. "Take the payout. Walk away. You don't know who you're dealing with." For the first time in my life, I didn't run. I lifted my chin, met his eyes, and told him, "Maybe it's time someone did." And just like that, the real war began. For 2 days after the will reading, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Unknown numbers, unmarked voicemails, half threats disguised as advice. I ignored all of them until Daniel called me into his office with a look that made my stomach drop. "They're offering you a settlement," he said, sliding a single white envelope toward me. Inside, an unsigned NDA, a wire transfer draft worth more than I'd ever make in 20 years, and one sentence typed in cold legal language: "Walk away and your reputation remains intact." My hands trembled before I slammed the papers shut. "So that's it?" I asked. "They think they can buy me off?" Daniel hesitated. "Emma, most people would take this deal. It's clean, no courtroom, no smear campaign, no risk." But that was the problem. Clean was exactly how my mother survived. Running, hiding, letting powerful people rewrite the truth because fighting back cost too much. I went home that night planning to think it over. Instead, I sat at my tiny kitchen table, staring at that envelope, until rage finally pushed fear out of the room. Before I could second-guess myself, I grabbed my phone and dialed the number printed at the bottom of the NDA. A man answered on the second ring. "Attorney Simmons speaking." "This is Emma Cruz," I said. "Tell Brandon I'm declining the settlement." A long pause. "Ms. Cruz, perhaps you should consider—" "I have considered," I cut in. "And I'll give him a counteroffer." Silence again. I could practically hear him stiffen. "I'll waive any personal inheritance," I said. "Every penny. I don't need Arthur Hale's money." "Then what?" he asked slowly. "Do you want?" I swallowed hard and let the words land like a strike. "I want a full forensic audit of the Hale Honor Fund. 10 years, independent investigators, and the findings released to the public." The man actually choked. "That's absurd. Impossible. Out of the question." "Then we're done here," I said, and hung up. My heart was pounding so loudly, I almost didn't hear the message notification buzz. It was short. "Bold move. You'll regret it. B." The email timestamp was immediate, as if Brandon had been listening. That night, walking through the dim, concrete garage of my apartment building, I felt the shift in the air before I heard the footsteps. "Emma?" Brandon stepped out from behind a column, still in his tailored suit, but looking less like a CEO and more like a man losing control. His tie was loose. His eyes were sharp with panic. "You think you're clever," he hissed. "Throwing around audits, calling lawyers, making demands." I tightened my grip on my keys. "Stay back." He didn't. He moved closer, voice dropping to a vicious whisper. "You're nothing. A medic who changes bandages. A nobody who got lucky. My grandfather pitied you, and you mistook it for legacy." Every word hit like a slap, but I didn't step back. For the first time in my life, I stood tall. "I'm not running," I said quietly. Brandon's expression froze. "I'm not my mother, and I'm not scared of you," I continued. "If you've stolen from the fund, if you've lied, if you've used veterans as a personal bank account, then I'm coming for the truth. And I will take that key away from you." His jaw clenched hard. "You don't know what you've started." "I know exactly what I've started." For a second, neither of us moved. His breath was sharp and fast, mine steady but burning. Then he turned and walked into the shadows, leaving the echo of his failure hanging behind him. I stood alone in that garage, my pulse thrumming with something new. Not fear, not anger, but purpose. For the first time, I understood what Arthur meant when he whispered, "Don't run." I wasn't going to. Not now, not ever. The courthouse steps felt like a battlefield long before I walked inside. Reporters swarmed Daniel and me the second we reached the entrance, their microphones thrust forward like bayonets. "Emma, did you seduce a dying general for his money? Are you the secret Hale heir or a con artist? Is it true you visited him off shift for personal reasons?" I kept my eyes forward. Daniel murmured, "Don't engage. Breathe. We walk straight in." Inside, the courtroom was packed wall to wall. On the right sat the Hale family, 20 people dressed like they were attending a memorial for their reputation rather than a legal hearing. Brandon sat at the center, jaw tight, hands clasped together like he was holding the world in place. But it was the back row that stopped me cold. Mr. Jenkins with his prosthetic leg, Maria with the cane, Henderson in his wheelchair, his VFW hat tilted proudly. My patients, my people. They didn't wave, didn't call my name. They just sat there like a silent formation. And I realized I wasn't walking into this alone. When the judge entered, Brandon's attorney sprang to life. He paced like a performer who had rehearsed his act for weeks. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about manipulation. A once great general, old, medicated, vulnerable, targeted by a young nurse who saw an opening." He clicked a remote. Photos flashed on the courtroom projector. Images of me pushing Arthur's wheelchair through the garden, of my hand on his arm, of me leaning down to check his pulse. But the images had been cropped tight, cutting out the hospital badge, the vitals monitor, the medical cart next to us. "This," he declared dramatically, "is not patient care. This is intimacy, seduction, influence." A low murmur rippled through the gallery. Daniel stood up like he'd been waiting for that exact moment. "Let's hear from the person who actually wrote the hospital report," he said. "The charge nurse." Nurse Patricia shuffled to the stand, tired, blunt, honest to the bone. Her voice was steady as she explained. "The general refused treatment from anyone else. He ordered me to call Emma at home. He said only she understood what combat felt like. She wasn't obsessed. She was following patient orders, and frankly, she saved our entire shift." The courtroom quieted. Even the judge leaned back slightly, absorbing it. Brandon's lawyer clenched his jaw, switched tactics. "We moved to block the DNA documents and the handwritten notes. Chain of custody issues, likely tampered with, unreliable." Daniel didn't fight. "You know what? You're right," he said calmly. My heart dropped. What was he doing? "If the court is unsure about paper evidence," he continued, "then we'll use something no one here can spin." He reached into his bag and pulled out the black USB. Brandon went pale instantly. "We have an audio recording, Mike," Daniel announced, "of a private conversation between General Arthur Hale and Brandon Hale, recorded legally on the General's property with his explicit consent." "Objection!" Brandon's lawyer shouted, voice cracking. "Illegal! Fabricated! Inadmissible!" The judge raised a hand. "I'll hear it." Daniel plugged it in. Arthur's voice filled the room, frail but furious. "Brandon, I will not have the honor fund used to buy your golf clubs. Veterans are waiting for wheelchairs." Then Brandon's voice, sharp, cold. "She doesn't matter. She's a pawn. If you push this, you'll burn the whole family. That girl is a matchstick waiting to be lit." A silence fell so complete, it felt like the air had collapsed. No one moved. No one breathed. The Hales turned toward Brandon one by one, their faces folding into horror. The judge finally spoke, voice low with controlled fury. "This court will suspend proceedings until the audio and all related documents undergo independent forensic verification." Her gavel struck like a gunshot. "Court adjourned." When I turned, the veterans in the back row were already standing. No applause, no cheers, just a quiet, unwavering wall of support. For the first time, Brandon looked smaller than the truth. I barely slept the night after the audio played in court. Exposing Brandon should have felt like victory, but instead a heavy dread settled over me. If the judge ruled the will invalid, if she believed the Hale family's claims that Arthur was confused or manipulated, everything I'd fought for would collapse. Not just the inheritance, not just the fund, my job, my license, my name. The hospital's review board had already hinted that if the will fell, they would reevaluate my position. I knew exactly what that meant, sacrificing me to keep a powerful donor family happy. By midnight, I was pacing my apartment like an animal in a shrinking cage. Every shadow reminded me of the years my mother spent running, from towns, from threats, from truths too heavy to hold. Then my phone buzzed, a number I didn't know. I almost let it ring out, until I saw the signature at the bottom of the text. Henderson, VA Ward. "Pick up the phone, Sergeant." My throat tightened. I called immediately. "You breathing, Cruz?" he rasped. "Trying," I said. He laughed. "We watched you in court today. Half the ward was yelling at the screen like it was a championship game." I managed a small smile. "Glad someone enjoyed it." His voice softened, turning steady and firm. "Tomorrow we're coming. All of us. Uniforms, wheelchairs, crutches, whatever we've got. That judge is going to see exactly who you're standing up for." My eyes blurred. "You don't have to. We do. Because you didn't leave us behind, and we're not leaving you." When he hung up, the silence in my apartment wasn't empty anymore. It felt like backup arriving on the field. I was still holding on to that warmth when a knock sounded. 3 sharp taps. Daniel stood in the hallway, out of breath, hair messy, eyes burning with adrenaline. "I found something," he said, stepping inside before I even asked. In his hands was a thick cream-colored envelope, sealed with dark red wax stamped with the Hale crest. My pulse skipped. "Where did you get that?" "The firm's private archives," he said, "filed 20 years ago. In Arthur's handwriting, to be opened only if my testamentary capacity is ever challenged." He placed it on my coffee table like it was a relic or a detonator. My fingers trembled as he sliced the wax open. Inside were 2 documents. The first was a long letter in Arthur's unmistakable handwriting. Daniel read aloud, "Your Honor, if you are reading this, my family has done exactly what I feared. I am of sound mind. My decisions are deliberate, based on 30 years searching for my granddaughter and 6 months observing her character firsthand." My chest tightened. I could hear Arthur in every sharp, disciplined stroke of the pen. The second document, a notarized addendum, changed everything. Daniel scanned it, then looked up at me with quiet awe. "Emma, you only inherit the estate if you agree to manage the Hale Honor Fund for at least 25 years. If you refuse, everything goes to the Colorado Nature Conservancy." I stared at him, stunned. He didn't want to give me wealth. "No," Daniel said gently. "He wanted to give you purpose." At the bottom of the page was one final line, written smaller than the rest. Written for me. "Don't run, Emma. Make it mean something." Something inside me cracked open, fear, grief, the shadow of my mother's life, and something stronger took its place. Arthur hadn't simply named me. He had believed in me. Tomorrow the judge would read these words. Tomorrow the truth would finally stand. And for the first time since this war began, I felt ready. The courtroom was deathly silent as Judge Vance lifted the papers from her bench. Her gaze swept over the packed gallery before settling on me, measuring everything that had led us here. "This court," she said, voice steady, "has completed the independent forensic review. The audio is authentic. The handwritten letters and sealed addendum are genuine. Major General Arthur Hale was fully competent. His will and all modifications stand." A shiver ran through the room. Someone gasped. Someone cursed under their breath. "Miss Cruz," the judge continued, "you are declared the legal heir of the Hale estate and the sole trustee of the Hale Honor Fund." Relief came slowly, like it was afraid to enter. Then she lifted another page. "However, there is an additional provision." Brandon straightened, sensing hope. The rest of the Hales leaned forward. "General Hale established private trusts for each family member. They are sizable but conditional. Each beneficiary must complete 1,000 hours of direct service to veterans at the Hale estate or any outreach center designated by the trustee, Miss Cruz. Hours must be supervised and signed off by her personally." Shock swept the room. Brandon leapt up. "This is insane! I'm a CEO, not a—" "Sit down, Mr. Hale," the judge snapped. "Serve, or forfeit the trust entirely." He sank back, jaw tight, face flushed, and in that moment, I understood. Arthur hadn't punished them. He'd made them face the people they'd ignored. "Case closed," the judge declared, banging the gavel. Reporters erupted. The Hales splintered like shattered glass. Daniel guided me through the chaos. Behind us, the veterans stood. Henderson raised his hat. Maria wiped tears. No words were needed. Their presence spoke volumes. 3 months later, the Hale estate had changed. The gates were open. Vans with veteran-owned decals arrived and departed. The old ballroom was now a group therapy hall filled with laughter and hope. The library held counselors instead of antique maps. The kitchen churned out meals for homeless vets, Gloria running it with drill sergeant precision and grandmotherly warmth. Outside, near the garages, I saw him. Brandon. Neon vest, trash picker in hand, sweat on his neck. No glare, no insults. He paused, nodded once at me, and bent to work. He still had 940 hours to go. His lesson, his responsibility. I walked to my small office overlooking the Colorado mountains. On the wall, 3 photos. Arthur, my mother, And the grandmother I never knew. My silver pendant pressed cold against my throat, my initials engraved carefully. I wasn't in anyone's shadow anymore. I wasn't running anymore. This wasn't revenge. This was rebuilding something that mattered, and I would make every hour count. If you stayed with Emma's journey to the end, how did it make you feel? Do you want more stories about family, justice, or women standing up to change their destiny? Comment below and let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories of women reclaiming their voices.